whenever I am feeling nervous or anxious, I always like to do a small little activity to help calm my nerves. And so I would like to invite you all to participate in this activity with me, only if you feel comfortable enough. So everyone, please stand. Okay. And I just simply want you to follow my lead, okay? I want you to lift your arms to the sky. I want you to bend your wrists like this. And I want you to begin to shake them back and forth really, really fast. Oh, that sounds like rain. Okay? And then start to get some shoulder and elbow action in there. Very good. Now keeping your arms close to your body, bring it on down, and then shake it to the ground. Very good. Now I want you to pause, place your hand on heart, 2 fingers on your neck, and I just simply want you to find your pulse. I'm noticing some of you close your eyes, which I didn't tell you to do, which is okay. Some of you are taking deep breaths. Some of you are probably wondering, why did this girl have me gyrate in front of all of these strangers? Where is this going? Some of you could be thinking, wow, this girl's voice is so calming. But whatever it is that you're thinking about, it is different than what you were thinking about before you did what I like to call the noodle dance. And that's why we do it. This is just one way to help us regulate our nervous system. Thank you. You may be seated. So why is this important for us to regulate our nervous system? It's because our bodies holds our experiences. And there's a quote that says, "The body may remember what the mind does not." And this is what happens when we experience trauma or small doses of stress over a long period of time. According to the CDC, trauma is something that can be passed down from generation to generation, making it intergenerational. And it's no secret that work causes stress, and that can lead to us experiencing feelings of trauma. So if you grew up like me, you grew up believing that work was a key to survival. So I'm from a small town called Renlo, which is inside a small city called Gastonia, which is right outside a small, big city called Charlotte, North Carolina. And I grew up with my mom and my dad and my 9 siblings. Yes, you heard that correctly. There are 5 boys and 5 girls. 7 of us are left-handed, including myself, and we are all artistically or musically talented in some way, shape, or form. Now, my mom, she decided to work 10 full-time jobs, taking care of me and my siblings. My dad decided to work multiple jobs and 18-hour days to make sure that he could provide for his family and make sure that our needs were met. Key words there is needs, not wants, not dreams, not desires. He used to have this saying, if you don't work, you don't eat. So this shaped my perspective around work. Work was absolutely key to survival. It was a non-negotiable. It was not optional. It was something that I needed to do. So my experience at work or how I felt at work, none of that stuff mattered. Empathy, compassion, purpose, achievement, all of those things were irrelevant when it came to work, because it was simply about making sure I could make enough money to take care of me and my family. This is what my dad did, my mom did, their parents did, this is what my siblings are doing, this is what I'm doing, and this is exactly what I do not want to pass down to my daughter. You see, this mindset and behavior was something that was birthed out of traumatic experiences that predates me, my parents, and my grandparents. Work is something that we use to compensate for where we lack. And when we experience trauma, we often are operating out of a place of lack. We'll do whatever we need to do to make ends meet. So when it comes to work, it is something that I believe contributes to intergenerational trauma. I also believe, though, that if intergenerational trauma exists, so can intergenerational wellness. So what does this mean? How can we go about it? What happens when work and wellness collide? To answer this question, we must address two things. The first is our relationship with work and work culture. And the second is this concept of wellness. So my organization, the Trauma Informed Institute, we asked 150 people, what are your top two stressors? And to no surprise, work and finances were the top two. And what's most important about this is that both of these things contribute to a person's well-being. When people experience trauma, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration came up with something called the Trauma Informed Guiding Principles. And these are principles that are typically implemented for people who are experiencing trauma. There are 6. The first is safety. Safety is not just about physical safety, but also psychological safety. And when we apply these 6 trauma-informed guiding principles to the workplace, I really do feel that we could make an impact that will last many generations. So safety inside work, not just physical safety, but psychological safety. Do we feel safe enough to advocate for what we need? Do we feel safe enough to show up to a meeting and be our full selves, right? The second one is peer support. Is the workplace creating spaces and environments where we can feel a sense of hope by people with shared experiences? The third is trustworthiness and transparency. I know trust takes a long time to build, but transparency is a way to do that. So are we making decisions in a transparent way with the intention to build and maintain trust? The fourth is collaboration and mutuality. This is where we emphasize partnership. We start to disrupt hierarchy, and we really try to include all people in decision-making. Number 5 is cultural, historical, and gender issues. This is where we move beyond stereotypes and biases. And also recognizing that identity is important, but experiences are also really, really important. So while I may identify as a Black woman, I cannot speak for all Black women, I cannot speak for all Black people, and I cannot speak for all women. Our individual experiences are really powerful to learn about. The last one is empowerment, voice, and choice. And this is simply where we look at people, and in the workplace, our team, as a primary factor in decision-making. Now, I know that these 6 trauma-informed guiding principles are going to look very different when you implement them in different sectors or different industries. So for example, a trauma-informed classroom could look like having 2 teachers instead of 1 to increase physical safety for students and peer support for the teachers. Maybe it's implementing mindfulness practices to increase psychological safety in students, and then giving them a choice of the flow of the day to empower them so they have a contribution to how their experience in the classroom is. A trauma-informed workplace could look like having annual trauma-informed training for all teams, specifically starting with leadership, to ensure that people understand the importance of self-regulation and they learn more tools like the noodle dance. Maybe it's building a robust employee assistance program that is actually designed with supports that actually fit the current need of the current team. This takes frequent and authentic engagement. This could also look like executive coaching, but with a wellness focus, or maybe wellness-focused retreats. Now, I know that we can't depend on the workplace to change itself. The workplace is made up of people like me and you every day. And it's up to us to decide how we will influence the workplace. And we can start with what we can control. That's ourselves and what happens in our homes. So I have a beautiful 8-year-old little girl, and she is just the most empathetic, sensitive, intuitive person on the planet. And to help her learn how to regulate her emotions, I taught her about our friend, Amy G. Amy G is short for amygdala. Everybody say amygdala. It's a weird word, which is why we call her Amy G. Amy G is our stress response. She operates like a detector or an alarm of some sorts. So if we are ever feeling a sense of threat or danger, if we are ever feeling overwhelmed, Amy G will sound the alarm in our bodies, causing us to experience emotions and sensations throughout. So whenever my daughter is having a big moment, I will hold up my hand like this. I'll take my thumb and begin tapping in the center of it, and I'll say, Nala, is your Amy G okay? What does she need? This signal works so well for us because my daughter is able to communicate whether she's well or not without using her words, but just by giving me this signal. This is adopted from Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. It works so well that one day I was coming home from work. It was a really long, stressful day, and I come inside my home and I do my normal routine. I take off my shoes, I take off my bra, I go wash my hands, I head to the refrigerator, open the door, and I stare inside of it, just trying to make a decision about what I'm gonna cook for dinner and how I'm gonna get my daughter to dance class within the next hour. And so my daughter, my beautiful daughter, comes up to me, giving me the signal, and I'm thinking, oh Lord, you too? But she says to me, Mommy, is your Amy G okay? And I say, oh God, it's me. Because in fact, I did not do my routine. My shoes and bra was still intact. I was actually just standing there, lost in space because I was so overstimulated by my workday, by the many decisions that I had to make, by the people issues, the problems, the compliance, the budgets, the deadlines, all the things. And this is when it dawned on me that our relationship with work and our experience with work has a direct impact on childhoods, mine and my daughter's. High stress, work, demanding jobs, and crazy schedules, if we're not careful, they absolutely contribute to physical and emotional neglect. And that is a form of trauma. So, while I can't change the workplace because I have to work to survive, what power do I actually have? What can I change? Well, I can choose to prioritize wellness. Now, let me be very clear. Wellness is not just self-care. We cannot self-care our way through trauma, stress, and adversity. The SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, came up with 8 dimensions of wellness. The first is emotional wellness, and this is our mental wellness. And this is our ability to have satisfying relationships in our life and be able to cope in a healthy way to life's hardships. We have spiritual wellness. This is not about faith or religion. It's about having a greater sense of purpose. We have intellectual wellness, which is not about how academically smart you are, but really it's about fostering curiosity and creativity and getting new knowledge and applying it to our life to impact us in a positive way. We then have physical wellness, which is not about how often you work out in the gym, right? How well your clothes fit or how strong you are. It's really also about rest, right? It's about getting nutrition. It's about learning how to regulate our nervous system. We have environmental wellness, which includes clean water, clean air, parks, nature, and also us asking ourselves, is the environment that I am in right now, is it adding to my well-being or is it taking away? We then have financial wellness, which is our satisfaction with our current finances and our future finances. We have occupational wellness, which is satisfaction from the work that we do. And last but not least, we have social wellness, which is not about how many parties we go to or how extroverted we may be. It's about having healthy, supportive, positive relationships in our life. So these are interconnected. They have a relationship with each other. There was a time in my life where I was in the process of buying a home. And for the life of me, y'all, I could not figure out how to pay my bills, save more money, and build my credit all at the same time. I don't know how people have done this, right? So I decided, like any normal human being, to get some extra clients and pick up a part-time job. And while I was focused on my financial wellness, my emotional wellness started to decline. I was very stressed, very anxious. My physical wellness started to decline. I wasn't sleeping. And my social wellness started to decline as well. My family didn't see me, my friends didn't see me, all because I was putting all my eggs into the basket of financial wellness. And so it wasn't until I reached a point where I'm like, this is not working. I need something else. And I realized that I was lacking knowledge. So I actually tapped into my intellectual wellness. And I had a meeting with a financial advisor at Bank of America. They kind of looked at all my stuff, and I was very vulnerable in that moment. And they told me, Vernisha, you don't really need to take on a second job. You don't need extra clients. You don't need extra money, in fact. You just need to focus on building your credit. And the way that you do that, I know that you're paying your credit card bills on time. You just need to pay it 3 days before the due date, because that's when it's getting reported. Oh, wow. So fast forward till now, I'm a proud homeowner. Oh, thank y'all. But that stemmed from me acknowledging that there was another dimension of wellness that I needed to leverage and tap into. Without that knowledge, I was running myself dry. Now, here's the thing. Life tells us to try to be highly satisfied in all of these dimensions all at the same time. This is called the Wheel of Life, which is a tool that I use in my coaching practice. And the way it works is you kind of rate yourself on a scale 0 to 10, your level of satisfaction. So, for example, this is what it could look like. Okay, so we have I guess you could call it a wheel, the white part there. And if you were to put this shaped wheel on a bike, 2 wheels shaped just like this would probably be a bumpy ride, or you probably wouldn't get too far. Well, it's because in our mind we assume that we need to score 10s across the board, but wellness teaches us that you actually need to be evenly satisfied in these different areas. So a level of satisfaction of 4 is much more beneficial than trying to use all of these efforts to reach 10. The last thing I'll leave you with is a decision-making tool. This is called the wellness continuum. And on one side you have premature death, which you can kind of look at that as illness. And on the other side you have wellness. In the center there's a neutral point. And before I make any big decisions in my life, I look at this to say, is this decision going to lean me towards wellness, or is it going to lean me towards illness? Every decision we make in our lives is either going to move us in one of those directions. So before I take a call, before I take another job or another client, before I book a meeting or before I do a TED Talk, I ask myself, is this going to move me towards wellness or move me towards illness? My life mantra is that in order to do well, I must be well. And this is really, really important for us to consider, especially when it comes to work and what we pass down to our children. So, what happens when work and wellness collide? Well, our leaders will lead with wellness in mind. We will incorporate trauma-informed practices across different sectors and different industries, and we can create the opportunity of intergenerational wellness through the workplace. So, I leave you with this question. Are you going to be a part of the generation that passes intergenerational trauma down, or will you join me in creating intergenerational wellness? Thank you.